Last semester, I walked into a class that was apparently supposed to start at 3. The time was 3:10, and no one had no idea where the professor was. So the guy in the front of the classroom turns around to a girl and says, "Hey, do you know the professor's name?" She then looks down at her phone to figure out the professor's name, and she goes, his name is, let's just say it's Bob Smith. When she says that to him, he goes, "Oh, it's Bob Smith? That's me." Gets up and walks in the front of the class.
So for my sophomore year, I took an American literature class. And the class was fun, it definitely challenged me, but one thing that was really interesting was my teacher. She was 6 feet, she was blonde, she had a pixie cut. She was very attractive, but she was not the nicest personality. But one thing that was very peculiar about her was that she was very sexual. I think like any young adult, at some point in their life, they go through this hypersexualized phase. And so she was just all about any type of sexuality that she can get her hands on. She openly admitted to her gallivanting and sexual experiences. But her main area of study, she was, I think, writing her thesis for her master's degree in American literature. And one of her main areas of study was homosexual subtext and imagery in African American literature. So we spent our whole American literature class not really going through the broad American literature. No, we only read African American literature, and we read it for the purpose of finding homosexual imagery or innuendos or themes, subtext. And so this is what we did for the entire semester. But one of the first classes that we had, we started reading a novel by Ernest Gaines called A Lesson Before Dying. And this book, it's a great book, but we're reading it, and one day, like in the middle of a passage, she stops us. And she says, hold on guys, does anyone see that? Does anyone see the phallic imagery that's being placed? And the class was just like, what is going on? And she goes, come on guys, do y'all know what phallic imagery is? And as bashful as young adults who are trying to explore the world are, for the first time, no one said anything. We were just kind of embarrassed. I imagine some girls were blushing. So she asked us, she's like, does anyone know what a phallus is? And again, there was no response. So she turned around, she wiped off a whiteboard, and she drew the largest and fully displayed erect penis in all its glory for everyone to see, and then pointed at the board and said, class, this is a phallus. Class dismissed.
Okay, so this one semester, on the first day of class, my professor came in and he was like, hey, here's the syllabus and here's a contract that I want you to sign for the terms and regulations of this class. And he's like, while you look over it, he's like, I'm gonna go ahead and turn on one of my new favorite songs. And so he turned on Turn Down for What in the front of the class and starts jamming it and fist pumping and headbanging.